What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now Plus. I'm Alex. In this video, let's talk about Remedy. I've been doing this, I feel like, for like a year and a half. Every quarter, they talk about what's up. I go over it, and we talk about it together. And look, to be honest with you, there's very few flashy things besides FBC Firebreak, besides kind of their opinion on how it did and whatnot. So let's nail some of the things that are not FBC Firebreak, and then we'll get into FBC Firebreak. Okay, so they talk about pretty much things are generally up. They've made actually an okay amount of money, primarily through those subscription service agreements from Xbox and PlayStation for FBC Firebreak. And we'll circle back to that because that was a big money driver. That was really the only money driver for that game. But they talk about that Control continues to sell well, past 5 million copies. I think it maybe did that last time, but continues to sell. Alan Wake 2 continues to sell. Also, Alan Wake, just in general, it continues to sell. Smaller pace, slower pace, and then also just not as much money, but it does continue to sell. Okay, so things are going fine there. They're still working on Max Payne. They're still working on Control 2, and they give us some updates. Again, they're not the most flashy, but I do want to read them. So they say Control 2 development is on track towards meeting its next milestones. The focus is now on the gameplay, environments, and missions. Work continues on developing the game into a strong commercial offering. The Max Payne 1 and 2 remake project continued its progress and remains in full production. In the second quarter, the team built on steady momentum from earlier in the year. Collaboration with Rockstar remains close and productive, ensuring alignment as the project advances towards its next major phase. So look, and I've said this time and time again, it's always sounded like Max Payne is ahead. And if you follow these, which again, I think we have for at least a year, if not longer, Max Payne has always hit that next development benchmark before Control does. Max Payne will hit it, and then Control hits it 3 to 6 months later. It's why I've always said, like, watch out for them in a good way, not in a negative way. The year that Max Payne comes out, and I'm starting to think it's more and more unlikely that it comes out in 2026. It's probably a 2027. But I would easily buy, if they told me, and I might even start theorizing it myself, these two games I think are going to release the same year. And that might sound crazy, and it might not be right, but through the partnership with Rockstar and kind of angling it that way, and then doing Control 2 kind of entirely on your own, I would not be shocked if Max Payne was like a February game and then Control was like an August, which I think Control 1 was a summer game. So I think you could do that. I really, really do. I think that these two games, I mean, yes, they kind of do feel like they've always been 6 months apart. That doesn't necessarily mean they'll release 6 months separated from each other, but it's just always felt that they're close and that they honestly could release beginning of the year, end of the year, like both of them within that same year. I'm going to hold on to that. And while I think, it's probably unlikely 2026, I think both of these games could absolutely release in 2027, which would be an incredible freaking year, I think, for Remedy, right? So, again, nothing too flashy there, but it just seems like Max Payne continues to kind of be ahead. Then they talk about FBC Firebreak. They talk about it reaching 1 million players in the first 10 days. Most were on Xbox and PlayStation. PC, the launch underperformed. They talk about it was, largely negative. It's seen recent turnaround, it seems like, in terms of that positivity. Then they do say, though, commercially, we were unsatisfied with the launch phase consumer sales of the game. Thus far, its commercial performance has largely been driven by Xbox and PlayStation subscription service agreements, which more money from those is still to come because of the contract. They say the game was designed to, evolve over time. They have that major update in late September, and they're looking forward and hopefully able to turn the game around. So this one's an interesting one. It's nothing really that we haven't heard or we haven't assumed. Like, I got my opinions on it. For as much as I love Remedy, and I've made all these videos, and I've talked about Control and Alan Wake 2. I covered Alan Wake 2 a ton, leading into and after. FBC Firebreak is just not it. I gotta be real. Like, I just think there's a very low likelihood that game becomes anything. I think it probably was doomed from the start. It was probably doomed before the start, to be honest with you. And it's just, it's not something that's really going to push. I don't see it turning around in a major... Like, here's the deal. When you drop to, like, 20 people playing it on Steam or whatever the number is, like, yes, that is the least of the platforms. Like, more people are playing it on PlayStation, Xbox, but how many people are playing it? A couple thousand, maybe a day? And it's like, do you want to turn that, say 5,000 in all in a day? You want to turn that to 20? How are you going to quadruple that? No, like it's just, it feels like it's not going to happen. Yeah, it's on the subscription services, but therein lies the problem. Do you want players or do you want people that buy it? I don't even know what you like, buyers, I guess, whatever phrase you want to use, right? Those are different things. And I guess I do kind of respect the honesty, and I guess they have to be honest to their investors and stuff, where it's like, hey, the game, in terms of players, actually did quite well. It actually maybe did more than they thought it was going to do, but the sales did really, really bad. Why? Well, because Steam, nobody got it, and then PlayStation, Xbox, the majority were there. Why? Because both subscription services had it for free. I got it for free so it's like, that's how it works. I think a game like that, specifically like that, and from a developer that's not known for that, yeah, it's going to attract players, I think, out of curiosity. And I don't think it's a terrible game. I think it's a very mediocre game. Even at its best, I think it's a very mediocre game. And that, look, when you have a mediocre game and it's on 2 different subscription services, and I actually have both those subscription services, many people have at least one, they're going to get it through that. Like, that's just, it's kind of natural. I don't really fault the consumer in that way. If it was like an Alan Wake or, a better game, to be quite honest with you, then I think it would be a bigger problem. But I don't, like, this is just me being honest. I love them. I'm always going to support them. I'm going to play Max Payne and Control 2 and Alan Wake 3. Hopefully we get that. But I am going to be honest. I'm not going to freaking lie. I don't see a rebound for this game. And I see what happened is exactly what you would expect to happen. It had players because it's on free things. If you took it off those free things, it wouldn't have sold at all. And all they would be saying, they wouldn't even have the whole, it hit 1 million players. They wouldn't be able to even say that. So it's like, you want to work to try to get it better 100%. It's got to improve, and I hope it does. It would take a really big improvement, and it would take kind of like a mindset shift from a lot of the players to not just come back. Again, it's 2 problems. It's you got to get people back, and you got to get the numbers up of players, but then not even just that. That's one issue, but then you want to make money. Logically, you want to make money. You're not making money. You're making people that are getting it through PS Plus and Game Pass. They're not buying it, right? So you want to get people to buy it. That's very difficult because it's on those subscription services. So that's just kind of my opinion on that. Let me know what you think. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.